Good morning from London and also good morning from Germany. This is another of the joint videos being made by KFA UK and KFA Germany to deconstruct and expose anti-DPRK propaganda. And we've got a short clip lined up from a German media outlet today. And I'm pleased to be joined by Comrade Jeremy, who is the newly elected chairman of KFA Germany, and by Comrade Sarah, the organisation secretary of KFA Germany.
We're going to watch a video by the news agency AFP in German language, and they are portraying the DPRK in a very negatively light, I think unjust. And we are gonna expose the lies they're telling.
Journalisten aus aller Welt drängeln sich vor dem Eingang dieser Seidenfabrik in Nordkoreas Hauptstadt Pyongyang. Die Regierung lässt nur selten Presseleute ins Land, doch zum 7. Kongress der regierenden Arbeiterpartei hat sie diese Tour organisiert. Die Journalisten werden zunächst durch eine Art Museum geführt, das an einen Besuch des 2011 verstorbenen Machthabers Kim Jong-il erinnert. Im Mittelpunkt steht dieser Aschenbecher, in den der Staatschef damals geascht hat. In der Fabrik sind geschäftige Arbeiterinnen zu sehen.
Ich arbeite hier seit 32 Jahren. In dieser Zeit hat unser lieber Führer Kim Jong-il die Fabrik 4-mal besucht. Auch seine erste Frau war einmal hier. Diese Besuche haben unserer Fabrik viel Ehre gebracht.
Im fabrikeigenen Kindergarten tummeln sich fröhliche Kinder mit nagelneuem Spielzeug. Ein Aufpasser behält die Szenerie stets im Blick.
Unser geliebter Führer hat sich ganz dem Volk geopfert. Seine Anliegen haben ewig Bestand. Auf dem Parteikongress hat unser Führer im Detail dargelegt, wie die Leichtindustrie noch besser gemacht werden kann. Und er hat die Zukunft unseres Landes beleuchtet.
Im Anschluss bringt ein Bus die Journalisten zurück in ihre Hotels. Auf eigene Faust filmen dürfen sie nicht. Unlängst war ein Team der britischen BBC aus Nordkorea ausgewiesen worden, weil es Angaben der Regierung angezweifelt hatte.
So, to translate it shortly, in this clip, they're talking about the Kim Jong-suk textile factory. One of the workers works there for over 30 years and remembers that Comrade Kim Jong-il visited the factory 4 times. And also his first wife went there one time. The workers just tell the things they feel and nothing hostile or something, they don't say something wrong or something like that. They also show a factory kindergarten with someone securing it. And another worker explains that the leaders also once explains that how to make the factory better and how to work better. At the end, the speaker is saying that the BBC got thrown out of DPRK because they didn't believe what the DPRK is showing. Yes, that was the...
Right, okay. Well, thanks a lot for your excellent translation, Comrade Sarah. Yeah, I mean, I can say quite a few things here because I actually visited the Kim Jong-suk textile mill in October 2019 and saw it with my own eyes. But I'll say a bit about that later. I'm just going to focus on this issue of the BBC correspondence, Rupert Wingfield Hayes. Now, I remember this very well, and KFA UK issued statements about Wingfield Hayes, or Rupert Wingfield Dingfield, as I called him. Yeah, I mean, the man's got a double-barreled name, which in Britain usually signifies someone from the bourgeoisie or upper class, because they tend to use double names which are hyphenated. But anyway, perhaps some people might regard that as irrelevant information, but I think it's interesting to mention. Yeah, I mean, Wingfield Hayes was the BBC correspondent in the DPRK, and along with the journalists in the video, he'd gone to cover the 7th Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea in May 2016, and I believe he was there at the invitation of the Korea Asia Pacific Peace Committee. And Wingfield Hayes was very hostile to the DPRK and committed many hostile acts whilst he was in the DPRK. But I was told, in fact, even when he was on the Air Koryo plane to the DPRK, he was actually overheard by the flight attendants making a whole series of vicious anti-DPRK remarks, So even before he'd put his foot on DPRK soil, he was hostile. So he was not going into the DPRK with an open mind. Whilst he was in the DPRK, he committed the hostile action of making disrespectful remarks about the great President Kim Il-sung in front of the statue of President Kim Il-sung. And he came out with all sorts of ludicrous rubbish whilst he was visiting the DPRK. He visited a children's hospital, which our delegations have also visited about 3 or 4 times. And he came out with the astonishing claim that the children in the hospital were not sick, that they were actors, this was all for show, which is a blatantly ludicrous claim. And, how would Wingfield Hayes know? Is he a doctor? Can he tell whether a child is sick or not? He a parent himself, we do not know that. He was clearly slandering the socialist system quite viciously. He was arrested and questioned. He actually signed a confession saying that his coverage of the DPRK was false. This is a very important point to note, that he had actually signed a confession stating that he had lied, and, you cannot get away from that fact. And I remember seeing footage of Wingfield Hayes being arrested and, interrogated. And in fact, he was given good treatment. He wasn't taken to a police station, but he was detained at his hotel and he was given bottles of mineral water, quite good treatment. And the decision of the Korea Asia Pacific Peace Committee was to expel Mr. Wingfield Hayes from the DPRK. So, basically, it was an example of BBC falsifying coverage of the DPRK. And, we got to remember what the BBC really is. It's not a neutral broadcaster. It's not independent. It is the British state broadcaster, controlled by the British state, with very close links to different British intelligence agencies such as MI6 and MI5. It is thought that most of the BBC's foreign correspondents are really MI6 agents or closely under control of MI6. If you try to get a job at the BBC, you go through what they call positive vetting, basically to ensure that no communist or leftist gets a job in the BBC. Most of their staff are right-wing Tories, maybe 1 or 2 right-wing Labour supporters and Lib Dems thrown in. But that is the ideological complexion of the BBC. It's very anti-communist and very anti-DPRK, and of course serves US imperialism and British imperialism. I could spend all day giving examples of hostile BBC coverage of the DPRK. And onto the subject of the Kim Jong-suk textile mill, which I visited in 2009 with a couple of comrades from KFA UK and the British Group for the Study of the Future Idea. That is a wonderful place. It's a big textile mill near to the River Taedong. It's in the centre of Pyongyang. Pyongyang is different to London and many countries in the imperialist world in that Pyongyang has a productive base. It is not a city of the elite, but it's a city of workers. There's many factories in Pyongyang, and, everybody in Pyongyang works. When we went round the textile mill, the workers told us that they had a 2-hour lunch break. They've got a hostel for unmarried workers, but, married workers at the mill live in flats that are just behind the complex, so they have basically a 4 or 5 minute journey into work, which is wonderful. I mean, those of us who've worked in London, have found often it's a 1 hour or 2 hour commute into work, so that is good. We saw a sci-tech learning space where workers can advance to a higher grade by studying science and technology. And as Sarah remarked, the mill had its own kindergarten. What factory in the capitalist West, has a creche or a kindergarten? I mean, Comrade Sarah, you're a worker. I mean, does your workplace have a lovely kindergarten or creche?
No, I just heard they try to make something like that, but I think Germany isn't interested to support something like that.
Yeah, I mean, precisely. I mean, it's only People's Korea provides these wonderful facilities for its workers, and also enables women to be able to go out to work and participate in society on an equal basis. So, this is a very important achievement of People's Korea. But anyway, perhaps you have a few words to say about this video, Sarah, and also you too, Jeremy. You may wish to share your thoughts.
Yes, I think it's also unjust, unfair, how they talk. For example, they say, oh, look, there's someone watching the kindergarten. If it's something really unusual and extraordinary that people watch the kindergarten children. Of course, there's someone who's going to watch them. Are you going to have a kindergarten without someone watching them? That's nonsense. But they're like, oh, look, there's someone watching on them. So I have never heard in my entire life a kindergarten without someone watching the children. If there was something like that, I think that would be very dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, also, I think they may well have misconstrued that or taken it out of context. I mean, how do we know that the man they showed watching the kindergarten children, how do we know it wasn't a parent or a father of one of the children, just went to the kindergarten to see how his kids were going on? I mean, this is another trick of anti-DPRK propagandists, is to go to the DPRK, film or photograph things. And, in another video, I'm going to be talking about a recent book on the DPRK by right-wing social democrat Glyn Ford. Oh, sorry, I actually meant to say Glyn Ford. Accidental slip of the tongue, which also used images taken out of context. But this is another trick of, taking genuine footage, but taking it out of context and putting wrong interpretations on what they've actually seen. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
Also about the children's hospital, I think it's just nonsense to claim they're all actors. Like, who comes on the idea, he goes into a children's hospital, makes photos there as a journalist, and it says, oh yeah, it's all faked, they're not really ill children. Like, you want to go into a German hospital and say, oh no, it's all fake, they're not really ill. And he doesn't prove it, he just says, because of North Korea, it has to be faked. That's just nonsense. Also, not every illness can be seen from outside. If a child maybe has cancer, you won't see it on the outside.
Okay. Comrade Sarah, would you like to say a few words, add your thoughts about this?
I'm thinking about the workers when they started to talk and to express their feelings about the factory, or just telling the stories from the past. I think it's interesting when I see how they look. They look very happy, and they love to talk about their experience and their past. And they are motivated, and you see it in their eyes that they're motivated. And she was proud to work there over 32 years in the factory. And in Germany, it's very rare to find someone who works more than 5 years in the same factory, because here in Germany we always have to switch jobs, because then it's getting too stressful, that the people are hostile there, something like that. And or for example, if I imagined right now, if some journalist would visit the factory of my mother, she's working in the factory also very long, but she likes the factory, but the other workers, they don't like the factory. And if journalists would visit this factory for my mother and ask people there and workers there, they wouldn't be so motivated like the people in the DPRK. They would look very, very pissed off and trying to talk bad about the factory or try to complain about everything, and would see that in the eyes that how they feel. It's a big difference between the DPRK and the Germany, because in Germany no one would be so nice and talking so happy in the camera, because here most people, like 90%, aren't happy in their factory or in their workplaces in Germany.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. I mean, in Britain, it's also very true. I think in Britain, most people who stayed in jobs for a very long time, it was simply because, there was no other job available, that they had no choice. And yeah, my experience, as a worker doing various temporary jobs a long time ago, and then spending 25 years in the civil service, was that most people were very disillusioned, demotivated, even bitter and angry about their job and how they were treated. So yeah, it's so good to actually see people actually enjoying work and being happy and motivated. And I say that is what I experienced when I went round the Kim Jong-suk textile mill back in 2019. And I think also it's because they provided very good conditions for the workers. They don't have to commute long distances or spend thousands of pounds on fares into work. I know the conditions are very, very good. So, they're free from stress. And just thinking about my visit in 2019, other members of the delegation remarked that the pace of life in DPRK looked very relaxed. We visited the Muncie water park and we sat down on some seats outside it afterwards because, there was a bit of a gap in our schedule. And we just saw some old age pensioners, relaxing and enjoying the sun. And, someone on the delegation said, oh, it looks very relaxed. There's no one pushing people to do things. And I think the irony is that all the time the mainstream media is trying to say that people in the DPRK are forced to do things, that it's totalitarian, it's a dictatorship, etc., etc. All these cliched buzzwords, words to demonize the DPRK. But in fact, people are happy and there's no one actually pushing people to do things. Whereas I think in Western societies, we are pushed all the time to do things against our will. What do you say to that?
Yeah.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
What would interest me on the water park of Germany, I think in the most Western countries, things like water parks or other things, other parks are you want to go, or even zoos are becoming more and more expensive. So, is it expensive in the DPRK, or how much did it cost?
Well, I mean, in the DPRK citizens, usually their workplace or trade union pay the cost of visiting zoos and other sort of recreational and cultural centres. So it is basically free for workers, and even if you visit as a foreigner, it's usually visit. In London, I mean, the London Zoo, this was going back about 15 or 20 years ago, was apparently about 50 or 70 pounds for a family ticket. So workers in the DPRK have access to top class cultural facilities as well.
I heard that in London you have to pay visit the memorial for Karl Marx's grave. I think I can't really say how bad I think that is. Like that the founder of scientific socialism, that for his grave you have to pay money. I think that's the most unethical thing, or one of the most unethical things I ever heard of.
Yeah, indeed. Anyway, we conclude soon, I think, unless either of you got other stuff to add. But one thing I would say, a few words about this media outlet, AFP, Agence France Presse, which is like, again, it's a big state media outlet of French imperialism, a bit like the BBC. Only unlike the BBC, it's actually a news agency rather than a broadcaster, but it does broadcast as well. And by curious coincidence, the former editor of NK News, Oliver Hoffman, who actually staked out and intimidated the KFA pickets of the South Korean puppet embassy back in 2013, after working for about 10 years on NK News, he went into AFP as well, which shows that AFP is another very vicious anti-DPRK media organisation. Anyway, basically, would both of you like to say a few last words, sum up the video and what you think about it and what you think we should be doing? Ask Sarah first and then you, Jeremy.
I think this clip is very sad because they should compliment the people instead of trying to find things to hate on, because there's nothing to hate on this video and on these clips like from the DPRK people on it. So it's for me, I would speak to compliment for the workers being so motivated and proud of their country and proud of their work.
Okay, and what would you say about AFP, the people who made the video?
I think they're degenerates because they, I don't know, they like the German Bild and Focus and all this stupid, I don't know, this agency. I don't like them. They're just trying to put oil in the fire and to find things which isn't there and try to start discussions and let people hate for no reason and just to have clicks or views, and it's like very hostile and degenerate in my eyes.
Yes, I totally agree. Okay, Jeremy, so what would you like me to say as a few last words on the subject of this video?
So about the AFP, I find very interesting. You can read down there, I can mark it here. You see, AFP wird ganz oder teilweise von der Regierung Frankreichs finanziert. AFP is financed completely or partly by the French government. So
yes.
here the word is financed by the French government. But if you would watch a video from KCNA or Voice of Korea on YouTube, then they also do it on Facebook. They're not gonna write KCNA Voice of Korea is financed by the DPRK government. The first they won't say DPRK, they will say North Korea, which is not the name of the state. The name of the state is Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or DPRK, or Church Korea, or People's Korea, but not North Korea. And that part is, so here on the AFP, the French state media, they won't say state media, they will say financed by France. But on the DPRK media, they are going to say state media. Because everything which is state-owned is, of course, evil. Just a neoliberal dogma. And I found that very interesting. And there you can see how they try to manipulate people. Also about this video and about how we should react on it. I think how the media is reporting about the DPRK, you won't find any Western media news article about the DPRK which is even neutral or only partly positive, or very, very, very rarely, maybe 1 in 1,000 is maybe neutral. 99 will be very, very hostile to the DPRK. It's a bit like how the media talks about the GDR. Even if they talk about a neutral topic, they always try to demonize the DPRK and the leadership of the DPRK. They can't even write anything neutral or partly neutral or even, God forbid, positive about the DPRK. No, it has to be demonizing the DPRK no matter what. They could write an article about, for example, a few weeks ago, I think there were fossils of dinosaurs found in the DPRK, which was interesting because we didn't knew that these kind of dinosaurs lived in that area of the world. But no, they only can write negative things about the DPRK. And do that because they want to manipulate the public opinion on the DPRK so that everyone is hostile to the DPRK. And I think we have to denounce this, and we have to denounce the lies they tell about the DPRK.
Yes, absolutely, Jeremy. I think that's quite right. I mean, once again, this clip that we've discussed, it reinforces the need to build KFA and to defend people's career with no ifs or buts. And we need to build KFA in all countries of the world, in Britain, in Germany, and the US, and, you know, everywhere where KFA has branches. We're expanding. We've opened a new branch in Kenya, just to give one example, and we need to expand into as many different countries as possible. And, you know, we need more KFA events, and we need more people coming to our meetings and our online events. Anyway, I think it's been great working with both of you this morning. I think we've had very useful discussions on this clip. So let's conclude now, and hopefully we will be back in maybe a couple of weeks with another clip. I know probably we're going to do something about Glenn Ford's book on DPRK, or perhaps another subject. Anyway, it's goodbye from me, and have a great day. And from you?
Yes, thank you, and have a great day.
Thank
From
you.
me, thank you very much for watching the video. I wish you a very good day. Bye. Mansei.
Goodbye. Mansei. Yes. Mansei. Bye.